Hello, today we are going to walk through the basic building blocks of SharpCloud from how we can create a new story and then touch on some of the different features of SharpCloud that you will utilize throughout your journey and story creation. So let's just dive into it. So first, in order to create a new story, once you sign into your dashboard, you'll select Create New Story. You'll be able to select the pack for your story. So this will vary based on your organization. So we'll select one of these. Once we hit OK, we have a couple options here. You see we do have some templates that we can choose from that we can make samples out of. But for the purpose of today, we're just going to select basic stories. So I hit basic story. I'm going to rename this to SharpCloud Demo, and I'm going to hit create. So now that we created a new story, you'll see we have some fields auto-populate, and we have a couple different views here on the left-hand side. So just to kind of orient ourselves with the tool SharpCloud, what we're seeing here across the top, we have our ability to see the story. So if I drop this down, I can manage presentations, forms, download the story to upload elsewhere, or I could dive into the story setup, which we will go into in a moment. I can see the data within the story. I could edit the data from a data grid or link it to external data sources. And then I can look at the view. So the view is what we're focused on right now. So we have two different views in this sample story, which we'll touch on later in this demo series. But this is where we can add filters, add a new view, save as a new, save any changes that we made to this view, and set up the view. On the right-hand side, we'll see another toolbar here. This will give us the ability to add comments to either items or stories to add some collaboration. Edit, which we will use to edit or create new items within the story. Widgets and forms we will dive into a little bit later in our series. So for right now, I kind of want to explain the basic building blocks of what exactly goes into a SharpCloud story. So if I open up our story setup here from the top, we'll see I can click setup. So what we're seeing here is just some general information about the story, which we can focus on later. But what I want to hone in on is the item section. So right now, what we're looking at is essentially the basic building blocks of everything that goes into SharpCloud. So what we start with are categories. So our categories are going to be the overarching swim lanes that we will have items fit into. So if you want to think from a high level, we could have a project category, and then any item that is a project would then be inside that category. Now, if I look at attributes, you can see some sample attributes here. Attributes are defining attributes, if you will, of an item in a category. So if we look at project, for example, an attribute, we can see you can have a numeric attribute. An attribute of that project could be cost. So this is the cost associated with the item in this category, for example. So this is the attribute that associates with an item that is in a category. The next portion I want to touch on is we'll skip over calculations and we'll look at tags. So tags are essentially multiple values. So these are similar to attributes, except an attribute you can only have one of. So if we think of a risk attribute, the risk can only be high or low, not high and low. So a tag would be something that you would have multiple values for. The next thing I want to touch on, and as we look at kind of the overall UI here, is we do have a couple other features at the top right that I want to touch on before we end this demonstration. We have the share functionality. which will allow me to publish this story. I can see the ownership of this story, and I can also share it with people whom I feel would get value out of this story, and I can set their permissions. All of this we'll touch on a little bit later, but this is a quick introduction to the general build and UI of what we have in SharpCloud. Thank you.